So Alice, I am Donna Maley, and I'm on the Border Ministries team with you, and so I'm so happy to be interviewing you, Alice Barreca, on your recent and first trip to the Laredo Respite Center at the end of June. I'm wondering, Alice, if you can tell us a little bit about your first impressions when you first got there.
Well, thank you for asking me, Donna. One of the things I was concerned about before I went, partly I think because of the influence of the media, I thought that the place would be chaotic and noisy and loud and lots of people everywhere, and that I would feel very intimidated by that. And it wasn't that way at all. It was very organized. In fact, it was very quiet. The people, the asylum seekers, were so polite. Each one of them, as we did things for them, said gracias. They waited in line patiently for what we were giving them. When it was time to serve lunch, they stood in a long line in the sun for a long time and came up just a few, followed directions, came up a few at a time. So the entire center was that way. It was well organized and was not a frightening experience at all. And for me, what that countered was this very negative image that we get from the media of these migrants as violent or troublemakers. I did not see that at all. So I appreciated the opportunity to go and to experience that firsthand for myself.
And thank you for bringing that perspective back to us for folks who haven't been able to go themselves. What would you say, what were one or two memorable experiences from the day, Alice?
One of the experiences dealt with these belts that we've been making. So on food pantry days, one of the things that some of us have been doing are making these belts that we take to the center. And the reason these belts are needed is kind of a sad story. As these asylum seekers cross the border, they are first processed by Border Patrol and I guess perhaps ICE. And one of the things that happens is they take the belts away from the men. And so when we were handing out lunch, one of the young men came up to get his lunch, and he is holding up his jeans with one hand and then balancing his plate with the other hand because his jeans were just falling off. And Creston said to him, "Come with me, I can help you." And he went and took him and got him a belt, and the young man was so happy. And that seems like such a small thing, but if you're the person balancing the plate and holding your pants up, it's huge. And so just to see that something we had been doing made that kind of a difference in someone's life was rewarding. The other memorable experience was when I was giving out the water bottles. So I didn't understand that really for most of the day, the asylum seekers are outside in this huge yard outside the respite center. It's very well organized, and it's not as hot as you would expect it to be. There are a lot of shade trees and a lot of covered porches, and they spend all day sitting out there. And they have those huge orange water tanks. And so in our last donation drive, we gathered up water bottles. And so one of the first things I did that day was I took out a big sack of water bottles to hand them out to the asylum seekers. And each one said gracias, and they were grateful, but what was the most fun were the little kids. They all gathered around me and they wanted to pick out their bottle. They wanted a certain color or a certain cartoon character. And then I saw them go right away to the water jugs and fill them up. So the reason we collected the water bottles was, save the environment, less plastic in the landfills. But also it was like we'd given them a Christmas present. It was just a lot of fun to see. And again, my impression was just how polite and respectful and well-behaved everyone was in that yard all day long as they sat outside. Another memorable experience was when the bus came. So these asylum seekers, they've been through the Border Patrol. They have gotten their paperwork. They come to this center. They're waiting for transport to the airport to get to their sponsors. So one of the really cool things that happened was the bus pulled in, and there was such excitement because they were gathering up their things and they had their paperwork with them and they were getting on the bus. And I knew that was almost the last step in their journey. That next they would go to the airport, they would get on a plane, and they would be with whoever was going to sponsor their time here in the United States. Maybe they were going to family or friends, or a church or some organization that had agreed to sponsor them. Such excitement for that last step. So that was a fun event to observe.
Well, thank you for bringing your experiences back, Alice. For those who weren't able to go firsthand, you really lifted up a few really powerful anecdotes to give us an understanding of the impact of the work and on you personally. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Donna. Thank you.